At 23 years old, I was finally standing on my own 2 feet. No roommates, no rent, no one above me telling me when to take out the trash. Just me, a modest but beautiful little 2-bedroom house, and a mortgage I was proud to pay every single month. It wasn't easy to get here. I worked doubles at the auto shop, lived off peanut butter sandwiches, skipped vacations, and saved every penny I could to scrape together that down payment. This house wasn't just wood and drywall, it was proof that I made it. But to Karen from the HOA, I was just a kid who didn't belong. She made that crystal clear the day I moved in. It was mid-morning on a Saturday, and I was unloading boxes from my truck when she strutted up the driveway like she owned the place. I'd never even heard of her until that moment. She had the signature look, visor hat, clipboard, and that stiff-lipped smile that screamed, "I run this neighborhood." "Excuse me," she said, eyeing my boxes like I was carrying in radioactive waste. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" I wiped the sweat off my forehead and smiled. "Morning. I'm the new homeowner. Just moved in." She blinked twice. "You own this house?" "Yep," I said, proudly holding up the keys. "Closed last week." She didn't even try to hide her disapproval. "This neighborhood has standards, you know. You'll want to check the HOA guidelines before doing anything questionable." I chuckled. "Well, unless one of those rules bans cardboard boxes and pizza, I think I'm in the clear." She didn't laugh. From that moment on, she made it her mission to make me feel like I didn't belong. Every day, it was something new. One morning she knocked on my door at 7:15 a.m. to inform me that my garbage bins were angled improperly. Another time, she cited me for having non-compliant landscaping because my grass was half an inch taller than regulation. Once, she left a warning notice because I had parked too far to the left in my own driveway. I didn't want to cause problems, so I kept things polite. I read the HOA handbook front to back. I even trimmed my hedges with a ruler one Saturday just to keep her quiet. But it didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. One week, I had to leave town for work training. I was only gone for 5 days, but when I returned, I found a big, bright orange notice taped to my front door, Notice of Eviction, HOA Violation 47B, Unauthorized Residency. My stomach dropped. Eviction? I wasn't renting. I wasn't squatting. I owned this house. The next morning, I stormed into the HOA office, notice in hand. And there she was, Karen, sitting behind the front desk like some gatekeeper of suburban doom. "What is this?" I asked, slapping the paper on the counter. She didn't flinch. "Your occupancy has been challenged under Article 4, Section 3.2. You're in violation of the HOA's minimum age and residency requirements." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "There's no age requirement. And I'm the owner." Karen leaned back in her chair, smug. "Our community was designed for mature, long-term residents. Typically, homeowners here are at least 30. You're an outlier. And we've received complaints that you've been running a business out of your garage." I blinked. "You mean my mechanic tools? That's my job. I work at a shop. I keep tools at home for side projects. That's not permitted. And the board agrees. You're disrupting the neighborhood atmosphere. So we're initiating the eviction process." I was stunned. This was completely made up. There was nothing in the bylaws about age or ownership minimums. And having tools in my garage? What was next, banning lawnmowers? So I called my real estate attorney. And that's when things got serious. Turns out, Karen had been acting far beyond her authority. She never consulted the HOA board. She issued the eviction notice personally, not as a legal document, but as an intimidation tactic. In fact, she'd tried something similar before with a retired Navy vet down the street. The difference this time? She picked the wrong target. Because I wasn't backing down. I filed a formal complaint against her with the HOA board. Then I requested an emergency hearing to clarify my legal standing as a homeowner. And for good measure, my attorney filed a cease and desist against her personally, warning her to stop harassing me under threat of legal action. Karen doubled down. She started showing up at my house daily. Taking pictures of my truck. Walking through my yard for inspection. Once, I caught her in my backyard, looking over my fence like she was casing the place. "Just checking for code violations," she said, without a hint of shame. "You're trespassing," I told her. "Young man," she snapped, "I am the code enforcement." That's when I called the sheriff. 2 deputies came out, listened to my side of the story, and then had a polite, but firm, chat with her on the sidewalk. I watched from the porch as her arms flailed and her voice climbed like a car alarm. And then? They cuffed her. Apparently, she'd ignored 2 prior warnings for harassment from previous residents. My complaint was the final straw. She was officially charged with trespassing, harassment, and impersonating a public official, because yes, trying to act as code enforcement without any actual authority is a crime. The look on her face when they put her in the back of the squad car? Priceless. Word spread fast. That evening, my neighbor, an older guy named Dave, came over with a six-pack and said, "Kid, I've been waiting 10 years to see that woman in cuffs." Turns out, Karen had been terrorizing the entire neighborhood for years. Writing fake citations. Making up rules. Threatening people with eviction if their porch lights were the wrong brightness. Everyone hated her, but nobody wanted to deal with the stress of fighting her. But now, thanks to her arrogance, and my attorney, her reign was over. At the next HOA meeting, the board voted unanimously to remove her from office. They appointed a new president, a kind older lady named June, who actually believed in things like fairness, kindness, and, the law. And me? I got a written apology from the HOA board. They waived my dues for the next 6 months as a gesture of goodwill. Karen, meanwhile, was hit with a restraining order and banned from setting foot on my property ever again. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't shaken by the whole thing. Being 23 and getting an eviction notice from someone with a clipboard is surreal. But I also learned something important. Just because someone acts like they're in charge doesn't mean they are. Titles don't give people the right to bully you. Age doesn't guarantee wisdom. And sometimes, the best way to shut a tyrant down is with facts, patience, and a well-timed sheriff's deputy. Now when I sit on my porch and drink coffee in the morning, I smile a little more. The sun feels warmer. The air a bit lighter. And every now and then, I glance down the street, just in case Karen tries to come back. But something tells me she won't. Because this time, the young guy in the neighborhood? He didn't just fight back. He won.